Hello and welcome to the show.
ततः शङ्खाश्च भैर्यश्च पणवाणकगो मुखाः सहसैवाभ्यहन्यन्त स शब्दस्तु मूलो भवत्.
Okay, so try and picture this with me. You're on a battlefield. It's just moments before everything kicks off.
Yeah.
The air is just thick, you can almost feel the tension. Hearts are pounding.
Yeah, the collective holding of breath.
Exactly. And then bam, suddenly just a sound, an explosion of it.
And that image, that's our starting point today, isn't it? Straight out of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, verse 13.
Right. And what's really striking, I think, is that it is sound that comes first. Not swords, not arrows, but sound.
It's the opening move. It sets the whole psychological stage for everything that follows. It's fascinating.
Yeah. So in this deep dive, we're really going to unpack that, how sound, even before the fighting starts, was used as a weapon, a strategic tool. And we're focusing right in on this verse to see what it tells us.
And for you listening in, our goal here isn't just, a history lesson. It's about understanding why this verse still matters.
Right.
What it teaches us about psychological warfare, sure, but also about the sheer power of sound itself.
And maybe even how we handle our own internal noise, our own kind of battles today.
Exactly. We want you to get a deep, quick understanding of all that. And our main source, of course, is right there in the Gita, chapter 1, verse 13.
Okay. So, sound is the first weapon. Let's start there. It's a big idea.
It really is. The fact that the verse mentions sound before anything else physical happens, that's significant. It tells you something more than just a physical fight is about to happen.
It's about the mind game from the very beginning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, think about any conflict, ancient or modern.
Right.
Winning isn't just about, physically overpowering someone. It's often about breaking their will, their spirit.
Yeah, getting that psychological edge. And the verse lists the Kauravas' tools for this, doesn't it? Their sonic arsenal.
It does. It meticulously lists them.
Yeah.
You've got the she, the conch shell.
Okay.
Then the barya, those big kettle drums.
Ah, right.
And pachava, anaka, other types of drums. And the gomuka, the kind of horn. It's quite a setup.
It sounds formidable. And these weren't for parades, were they?
Oh, definitely not. These were war instruments, chosen specifically to, pump up their own troops, get the adrenaline going.
Boost morale.
Right. And, maybe even more importantly, to scare the living daylights out of the Pandavas.
And the verse emphasizes how it happened, sahasaiva, all of a sudden.
Yes. That's crucial. It wasn't a slow buildup. It was like flipping a switch. Boom. Instant simultaneous noise.
Designed to shock, to disorient.
Totally. Imagine being on the receiving end of that.
Yeah.
Just whoosh. This wave of sound hitting you right when you're trying to focus to steel yourself.
Yeah, it makes you think, how would you feel? That immediate, overwhelming, it's meant to sow confusion, maybe doubt, before anyone even lifts a weapon.
It's a tactic, a sonic assault designed to create dread.
Okay, so this ancient orchestra of war, as you called it, let's get into the instruments themselves a bit more. What did they sound like? What was the intended effect of each one?
Well, what's really interesting is how deliberate the choices seem. Take the shaka, the conch. Normally, it's a symbol of purity, of divine sound even.
Okay, yeah, you hear it in temples.
Exactly. But here, sounded by the Kauravas, the implication is that it's used with arrogance, a loud declaration like, we're here, we're powerful. It's almost a perversion of its sacred use.
So twisting a symbol, that's a psychological tactic in itself.
It is. Then you have the barya, the kettle drums. Think deep, resonant.
Thunderous.
Yes, exactly. That low rumble that instinctively makes you feel uneasy. It taps into something primal, that sense of impending danger.
Right, like a storm brewing. And the other drums, the patava and anaka.
Those were probably providing the rhythm, the beat, something to rally their own troops, give them a unified pulse, but also adding to the overall cacophony aimed at the enemy. Mid-range chaos, maybe.
Adding layers to the sound. And the gomuka, the horn shaped like a cow's mouth, that sounds like it was meant to carry.
Precisely. You'd expect a loud, piercing, maybe echoing sound from that. Something designed to cut through the air, travel across the whole battlefield.
To make sure everyone heard it. Loud and clear.
Amplify the intimidation. Make sure the sonic attack reached every single Pandava soldier. The key thing here is, this wasn't just random noise. It was coordinated. A performance almost.
A war concert.
Yeah, with a very specific goal. Mental invasion.
Mental invasion. That phrase really sticks. It connects to something else you mentioned, sound as energy, both in ancient thought and, even how we understand it now.
Absolutely. And it's quite amazing how those two perspectives align here. In ancient India, the concept of shabda sound is fundamental.
Right, like Om.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Om is seen as the primordial sound, the vibration from which the universe manifested, according to the Vedas. So sound wasn't just noise. It was believed to carry inherent power, creative power, but also destructive power.
Like how music can completely change your mood in an instant.
That's a perfect small example. They understood sound had this active quality. It could build up or tear down.
So it wasn't just symbolic noise they were making, they were trying to harness this energy.
That seems to be the implication. And, modern science kind of echoes this, doesn't it? We use ultrasound to heal, to break up kidney stones.
Right, using sound waves constructively.
But then there's infrasound, low-frequency sound, which can cause disorientation, even physical discomfort. And, of course, loud noise itself is a known psychological stressor used in modern interrogation or crowd control.
So the Kauravas, maybe without the scientific terms, had this intuitive grasp that sound could be a weapon, that their sonic barrage was an actual attack on the minds of the Pandavas.
It certainly looks that way. They understood that sound could mess with your emotional state, your focus, your resolve, maybe soften them up before the real fighting began.
Wow. Okay, so this brings us to, well, us. The source kind of pivots here, suggesting our own lives have these battlefields. How does this ancient noise relate to the stuff we deal with every day?
This is where it gets really relevant, I think. It's a powerful analogy. Just like the Kauravas unleashed this external noise, we're constantly bombarded by our own kind of emotional noise.
Okay, like what?
Well, think about it. There's the internal chatter, right? The voice of fear, of self-doubt telling you you're not good enough.
Oh yeah, that one's loud sometimes.
Or worrying about failure. And then there's the external noise. Other people's opinions, social media pressure, expectations from family, work. It's relentless.
It really is like a constant background hum of anxiety and pressure. What will they think? Can I actually do this?
Exactly. Those are our inner Beria and Gamukha, maybe. And they can be just as overwhelming, just as paralyzing as that battlefield noise. They cloud your thinking, drain your confidence.
So the question becomes, like Arjuna facing that wall of sound, do we just get swept away by our own internal noise? Do we let it intimidate us?
Or can we find a way to listen past it, to connect with something quieter, maybe calmer inside?
Which leads us neatly into that contrast the source makes between noise and silence. It even calls the Gita a drama of consciousness. What's the symbolism there?
It's a really insightful way to look at it. If the Gita is this inner drama, then the Kauravas' loud, aggressive sounds symbolize the noise of the outer world.
Like the ego, fear, all that striving.
Precisely. The ego loves to be loud, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It demands attention. And then you have Krishna.
Who represents the calm inner voice.
Yeah, the voice of wisdom, of Dharma.
Okay.
Not just rules, but like your inner truth, the right way for you. It's a stillness, a clarity, standing against the chaos.
And you mentioned the source hints that the Pandavas will also sound their conches, but it's different.
Exactly. We'll definitely get into that next time. It's described as having this divine stillness, which is a stark contrast to the Kauravas' noisy arrogance.
Ah, okay. So a different quality of sound altogether.
Right. But the takeaway for now is powerful.
Yeah.
Just because something is loud doesn't mean it's strong or right. Sometimes real strength lies in that inner quiet, that calm center.
That makes sense. It also ties into the historical context the source brings up. Vedic warfare wasn't just a free-for-all, was it? There were rules,
Sure.
ethics.
That's the traditional understanding, yes. Battles described in texts like the Mahabharata were often said to operate within a framework of Dharma. There were codes of conduct.
So things like signaling the start of the battle, which is what this verse describes, were part of that formal process.
Exactly. It wasn't supposed to be just sneaking up and attacking. There was a certain respect, maybe, even in conflict. The source mentions things like prayers before battle, attempts at diplomacy first.
Which feels quite different from a lot of modern warfare.
It does. And placing this deep spiritual dialogue right in the middle of a battlefield setting, that's what makes the Gita so unique. It emphasizes that the outer conflict is often just a reflection of the real battle, the one happening inside us.
Okay, let's circle back to the verse itself then. The source offers a symbolic reading of some key Sanskrit words. Can we walk through those?
Sure. So tata, it means then. It signals that this action, the sounding of the instruments, happens after something else. In this case, after Duryodhana has spoken to his teacher.
Okay, so sequence matters. Challenges don't just pop up randomly, maybe. They follow other unanswered decisions.
That's one way to read it symbolically, yes. Then the list of instruments, the shoka, varya, etc., we talked about them literally, but symbolically.
The source suggested they represent all the distractions, the different kinds of noise in our lives.
Exactly. The sheer variety of things pulling at our attention, creating internal chaos.
And sahasaiva, all of a sudden, that feeling of being ambushed by problems.
Yep. Life throws curveballs, doesn't it? Things hitting you unexpectedly, just like that sudden blast of sound.
Feels very relatable, and Abhihanyanta sounded simultaneously.
That feeling of being overwhelmed, like everything is hitting you at once from all directions. Job stress, family issues, health worries. Sometimes it feels like a pile-on.
Yeah, definitely know that feeling. And the result, Sashavdat Tumultuous, the sound was tumultuous.
Tumultuous, chaotic, overwhelming. It represents how all that external and internal noise can just drown out your inner wisdom, your quiet knowing.
So the big message from breaking it down like this is...
Before you can really deal with the external challenge, the external battle, you've got to find a way to manage the inner noise. Conquer the tumult within first.
It's really practical, actually, which leads perfectly into the next part. The source suggests some concrete things we can do inspired by this verse, practices for listeners.
Yeah, it offers some really helpful ideas.
Yeah.
The first one is simple but powerful. Morning silence.
Okay.
Just 5 minutes maybe before you check your phone, before you dive into the day. Just sit quietly. Tune inwards before the outside world rushes in.
Like setting your own internal tone for the day before the external noise starts?
Exactly. Build a little buffer of calm. Another practice mentioned is mantra chanting.
Using sound against sound?
Kind of. Since sound has this energy, using a mantra like Om or something else that resonates with you can actually help purify the mental space. Focus the mind, quiet the chatter.
Interesting. What else?
A distraction detox. We're so plugged in all the time.
Constantly.
So consciously take breaks. Step away from social media, news feeds, constant emails. Give your mind a chance to just be quiet, reset.
Create intentional pockets of silence in the day. That sounds necessary.
It really is. And one more. Sound journaling.
What's that?
Literally writing down those internal noises. Your fears, your doubts, those critical voices.
Get them out of your head and onto paper.
Yes. Sometimes just naming them, seeing them written down, takes away some of their power. It helps you process them instead of just letting them echo around inside. The source puts it nicely. The Gita isn't just philosophy. It's like a manual for mental clarity.
A manual for mental clarity. I like that. Okay, so let's bring it back one last time to that inner battlefield analogy. How does this verse really lock that in?
Well, if the battlefield is your mind,
Okay.
and the Pandavas are your higher values, your best intentions, and the Kauravas are your weaknesses, your fears, your bad habits,
Right.
then Duryodhana leading the charge with all this noise is basically your ego.
Loud, demanding, maybe a bit insecure underneath.
Often, yes. And Krishna is that quiet voice of inner wisdom, your intuition, your connection to something deeper.
So this verse, with the Kauravas' sudden tumultuous noise, that's the sound of the ego and fear trying to dominate the battlefield of your mind.
Exactly. It's the first assault, trying to drown out everything else. Which brings us back to the core question for you listening right now.
Which voice do you amplify?
Yeah. Which sound gets your attention? The shouting ego, the noise of fear? Or do you make space to hear that quieter, guiding wisdom?
Wow, that really crystallizes it. So wrapping up this deep dive, the key takeaway from just this one verse, chapter 1, verse 13, is...
It's that before almost any external battle, there's an internal one, a sound war inside us. The verse shows how sound, especially aggressive, fear-based sound, is a powerful psychological force.
And it sets up that crucial difference we'll explore next time the Kaurava is trying to overwhelm with volume versus, well, something else from the Pandavas, a focused presence.
Something like that, a presence rooted in purpose, not just panic or arrogance. The verse, and the Gita as a whole, really asks us, how do you respond to life's noise? Do you just react? Get pushed around by it?
Or can you choose your response? Act with intention.
Exactly. So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. Take a moment, really listen. What are the sounds that are running your life right now?
Are they truly yours, your authentic inner voice? Or are they just echoes of what others expect, what fear dictates?
And just remember that idea, that silence, true inner quiet that comes from knowing your Dharma, your truth, that has a strength that no amount of outward noise can ever match.
A powerful place to pause. Join us next time as we listen in on the other side, the sounds of Krishna and Arjuna.
Until then, maybe find a little quiet, stay grounded, and work towards those inner victories.